Today's deep dive. I'm your host, here with our resident clinical analyst. And I have to be honest with you, usually when I pick up a medical research paper, I expect dry data. I expect caution. I expect to be put to sleep a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. The standard academic tone.
Right. But I am looking at a document right now that feels less like a research paper and more like a declaration of war.
It really does. It's titled The Phantom Swarm Manifesto, Revision 1.0, dated just this month, February 2026. And the tone isn't, here is a modest improvement. The tone is, we are done losing.
It's aggressive, it's urgent, and the target is the big one, glioblastoma multiforme, GBM.
Neuro-oncology's cruelest defeat.
Wow.
That is not an exaggeration. For decades, this tumor has been the graveyard of ambition for cancer researchers. It's aggressive, it destroys the person before it kills the body, and it has been effectively impossible to stop.
I was looking at the stats in the intro here, and to anyone listening who knows these numbers, they are, well, Grim doesn't even cover it.
No, it doesn't. Right now, the gold standard of care, what you get if you walk into a top hospital today, gives you a median survival of about 15 to 18 months. That's it.
A year and a half.
A year and a half. And the 5-year survival rate, it's sitting at 5%.
5%.
It bumps up to maybe 13% if you use some of the newer electrical field therapies. But broadly speaking, this is a terminal diagnosis. And that is what this manifesto is challenging. It's arguing that we have accepted terminals simply because we haven't been smart enough to figure out chronic.
That's the phrase that grabbed me. Shifting from managing a death sentence to chronic control, like diabetes or HIV, something you live with, not die from.
Precisely. And the core argument here, the swarm concept, isn't that we need to invent some magical new molecule in a lab that doesn't exist yet. The argument is that we already have the weapons. We just have no idea how to use them together.
That's a coordination problem.
It's a sequencing problem. The manifesto argues we need to stop throwing things at the wall to see what sticks and start colonizing the brain's immune privilege.
Colonizing the immune privilege. That sounds like we're invading a planet.
In a way, we are. We're invading the brain to save it. But to understand why this strategy is so radical, you have to understand why the current approach fails. Why is GBM such a fortress?
The document calls it a sanctuary tumor, which sounds peaceful, but I'm guessing in this context it means hard to get to.
Think of the brain as a VIP club with the strictest bouncer in the world. That bouncer is the blood-brain barrier. Its job is to keep toxins out of your neural network. And it is very, very good at its job. It blocks about 98% of small molecule drugs.
So you pump chemotherapy into a patient's veins, and the vast majority of it just bounces off the velvet rope?
It never touches the tumor.
So we're poisoning the patient's body, but the tumor is sitting comfortably behind this wall.
Most of the time, yes. And it gets worse. The tumor isn't just hiding, it's integrated. GBM infiltrates what we call eloquent cortex, the parts of the brain that make you, you. Speech, movement, memory. A surgeon can't just hack it all out because they'd be removing the person along with the cancer.
You can't take extra margins like you would on a skin mole.
You can't. And physically, these tumor cells are like guerrilla fighters.
Yeah.
They migrate 2-3 centimeters away from the main mass. So even if the MRI looks clean after surgery, the enemy is already deep in the territory, invisible.
And the immune system, where are the body's police?
They've been paid off.
Wow.
The brain is an immune-privileged site, meaning it actively suppresses inflammation to protect neurons. The tumor hijacks this. It actually reprograms the brain's local immune cells, the microrelia, to protect it. So the guards are working for the bad guys.
Okay, so let me sum up the status quo that this manifesto is attacking. We have a tumor that hides behind a wall, lives in the most valuable real estate in the body, and has bribed the security guards. And our current solution, the STIP protocol, is what?
Surgery, radiation, and a chemotherapy drug called temozolomide. That protocol was established in 2005.
2005, that's before the iPhone.
It is. In the world of medical science, that is ancient history. We have been stuck in a time loop for 20 years, and that is why the Phantom Swarm Manifesto is so high energy. It's saying, stop trying to knock down the fortress walls with a blunt hammer. We need to weaponize the walls.
Weaponize the walls. Okay. This is where we get into the 4 pillars. And I want to walk through this slowly because the logic here is fascinating. It's not a list. It's a sequence. Step 1 makes step 2 possible.
Correct. It's a cascade.
So, pillar 1. The document calls it the always-on foundation, and it's magnets, electric fields.
Tumor treating fields, or TT fields, you might know it by the brand name Optune. The patient wears a device on their head, looks a bit like a swimming cap with wires that creates alternating electric fields at 200 kilohertz.
And I've seen these. But I always assumed it was just zapping the cancer cells.
It's more subtle than a zap. It's static interference. When a cancer cell tries to divide, which they do constantly, these fields physically disrupt the internal machinery of the cell. The cell tries to pull apart into two new cells, gets confused by the field, and essentially shreds itself.
Brutal. I like it.
It is effective,
Yeah.
but the manifesto points out something most doctors miss. It's not just about killing the cells. TT fields increase membrane permeability.
Permeability, so it makes the cells leaky.
It makes them porous. Think about that fortress again.
Yeah.
Step 1 doesn't blow up the fortress. It cracks the windows. It weakens the mortar. It stresses the tumor out so much that its defenses start to slip.
Okay, so the tumor is stressed, the walls are leaky, the battlefield is prepped. Now we move to pillar 2, the breach. And I had to double check this part of the document because I thought it was a typo.
The virus.
Yeah. Pillar 2 involves injecting herpes into the brain.
It does.
You have to explain this. You have a patient dying of brain cancer, and the plan is, let's give them a viral infection.
It sounds reckless, doesn't it? But it's actually the most elegant part of the plan. Remember the blood-brain barrier? The bouncer that keeps all the drugs out?
Right.
Well, the herpes simplex virus, specifically HSV1, is one of the few things in nature that has evolved specifically to bypass that bouncer. It has the biological key to the lock. It walks right into the nervous system.
So instead of spending $1 billion trying to invent a nano machine that can cross the barrier, just use the one nature already built.
Exactly. It's a Trojan horse. But this isn't wild herpes that gives you a cold sore. This is a highly engineered version, CureVac CDGBM. It has been modified so it can only replicate inside tumor cells.
How does it know which ones are tumor cells?
Tumor cells have defective defense pathways, specifically something called the PKR pathway that can't stop the virus from copying itself.
Yeah.
Healthy neurons can. So the virus ignores the healthy brain, finds the cancer, breaks in, and starts replicating until oncolysis. The cancer cell bursts open.
So it's a grenade.
It's a grenade, but it's also a flare gun. And this is the crucial synergy with the next steps. When that cancer cell bursts, it doesn't just die quietly. It spills its guts everywhere. All the hidden proteins, the DNA, the antigens that the tumor was trying to hide, they're suddenly floating around in the open.
It effectively decloaks the Klingon ship.
Better. It turns the ship into a glowing neon sign, and the virus is engineered to release distress signals, things like GM-CSF and interferon gamma. These are chemical screams that tell the immune system to come here right now.
So you've gone from a cold tumor, one the body ignores, to a hot tumor that is swarming with immune activity.
And remember those traitorous microglia? The guards that were paid off?
The ones protecting the tumor?
The interferon signal reprograms them. It snaps them out of the trance. Suddenly, they realize they've been protecting the enemy, and they turn on the tumor.
That is incredible biological engineering. So now the fortress is breached, the walls are leaky, and the alarms are blaring. But having the police show up is one thing. Giving them a specific suspect description is another.
And that leads us to pillar 3, the hunter, the personalized neoantigen vaccine.
This uses the mRNA tech we all learned about during COVID, right?
Same underlying technology, but applied very differently. In a pandemic, everyone gets the same vaccine because the virus is the same. In cancer, every tumor is unique. It has its own mutations.
So they have to biopsy the patient's specific tumor first.
Yes. They sequence the tumor's DNA, find the mutations that make it unique, things like EGFR-V or IDH1, and then they print a vaccine that targets 10 to 20 of those specific fingerprints.
It's a custom-printed wanted poster.
A wanted poster for a hit squad. The goal here is to train T cells to hunt down anything that looks like that specific tumor. But the manifesto emphasizes a very specific type of T cell, tissue-resident memory T cells, or TRMs.
What's special about them?
Most immune cells float around in the blood. TRMs migrate into the tissue and the brain parenchyma itself, and they stay there. They set up a garrison.
They occupy the territory.
They colonize it. This addresses the biggest failure of current treatments, which is recurrence. Usually, you kill the main tumor, but a few cells survive, hide, and grow back 6 months later. With TRMs, those sentries are waiting. The moment a cell tries to go back, it gets taken out.
That's the chronic control part. You're leaving a standing army behind.
And because the vaccine targets 10 or 20 different mutations, the tumor can't escape. Usually, tumors mutate to hide, but it can't change 20 different disguises simultaneously. We escape-proof the treatment.
Okay, so we have the layout. Electricity to weaken, virus to breach and alarm, vaccine to train the snipers. But the manifesto has a V2 configuration, a fourth pillar, the cellular swarm.
This is the escalation, the nuclear option.
CAR T cells.
Right. CAR-T has been a miracle for blood cancers like leukemia. You take a patient's T cells, engineer them in the lab to be super killers and put them back in. But they've never worked well in solid tumors like brain cancer.
Because of the wall barrier.
The barrier and the hostile environment. But look at how the swarm solves this. First, they don't put it in the arm. They inject these cells directly into the tumor bed via an Amaya reservoir.
Which is a port in the skull.
Yes, it's a direct line. You bypass the wall entirely. But here's the genius of the sequencing. If you threw CAR-RT cells into a standard GBM, the tumor would shut them down immediately. It would release immunosuppressive signals, and the T cells would just go to sleep.
But we've already done pillar 2.
Exactly. The virus has already been there. The microglia have already been flipped. The environment is no longer hostile. It's primed. So when you drop these super soldier T cells targeting that EGFRV8 mutation, they land at a battlefield where the enemy is already disoriented, and the locals are helping them.
It's synergistic. Every step covers the weakness of the step before it.
That is the definition of the phantom swarm. No single component works well enough alone. Together, they are devastating.
But I have to play devil's advocate here. You are talking about creating a massive immune response inside the human brain. The brain is inside a fixed box, the skull. If you cause too much inflammation, too much swelling that kills the patient, just as dead as the cancer.
It's the single biggest risk. Cytokine release syndrome in the brain is a nightmare scenario.
So how do they stop it?
This is where the manifesto becomes a system. They call it the self-regulating safety architecture. They don't just light the fire, they have fire extinguishers ready.
Like what?
Well, for the virus, they have a suicide gene.
A suicide gene.
The HSV1 is engineered with a thymidine kinase gene. If the virus starts spreading too aggressively, doctors administer a common drug called ganciclovir. This drug interacts with that specific gene and instantly shuts the virus down. It's a literal kill switch.
You press a button and the virus stops.
Immediately. And for the immune cells, if the inflammation gets too high, if the hypersynchrony on the wearable EEG monitors shows distress, they use a CSF1R inhibitor, pexidartinib. It wipes out the microglia population temporarily. It dampens the fire instantly.
So they can throttle the attack up or down. It's not just fire and prey.
Controlled aggression, that's the key.
So if we pull this off, if we coordinate these 4 things, electricity, virus, vaccine, cells, what happens? What are the numbers in this document?
The authors are projecting a leap in median survival from that grim 15 to 18 months to over 30 to 36 months.
Doubling survival.
Doubling it. And aiming for a 40 to 50% recurrence rate at 2 years, rather than the 90% we see now. But numbers are cold. The real victory here, the one that makes me emotional reading this, is cognitive preservation.
Yeah. Reclaiming the mind.
Think about what current chemo does. It's neurotoxic. It kills brain cells. A year into treatment, many patients are alive, but they aren't there. They've lost their memories, their personality. They have 80% cognitive decline.
Which is heartbreaking for the family, sometimes worse than the loss itself.
The phantom swarm targets the tumor, not the brain. The projection is that 70% of responders maintain neurocognitive stability. That means you get 3 years, maybe 5 years, maybe more. But there are good years. You recognize your kids. You can have conversations. You are still you.
That changes the definition of survival. It's not just a pulse, it's a life.
And paradoxically, it's cheaper.
How can this be cheaper? Custom vaccines, engineered viruses, brain ports. That sounds like $1 million treatment.
The estimated cost is $75,000 to $120,000. But think about the cost of failure. A GBM patient who fails treatment has repeated surgeries, weeks in the ICU, constant ER visits, hospice care. That runs $300,000 to $500,000 easily. It is expensive to fail. It is efficient to cure.
Wow, put that on a billboard. It is expensive to fail.
It's the truth of modern medicine.
So, we have the plan. We have the tools. This document says they all exist right now, so why aren't we doing this? Why can't I drive to a hospital and get the phantom swarm protocol?
That brings us to the call to arms at the end. The barrier isn't biology anymore. It's bureaucracy. It's logistics.
People not talking to each other.
Think about the silos. The neurosurgeon is in one department. The virologist is in a lab across town. The regulatory body, the FDA, approves drugs one by one, not in complex sequences. To pull this off, you need a war room mentality. You need everyone to agree to deviate from the standard of care.
And the standard of care is a safety blanket. Even if it doesn't work well, doctors won't get sued for using it.
Exactly. To do this requires, well, the manifesto uses the word courage.
The courage to deploy.
It ends with a dedication that really grounds all this high-flying science. For Queen Kimi, I don't know who Kimi is, but I know what she represents. She represents the patients who don't have time for us to have another 10 years of committee meetings.
And the challenge at the end is so clear. The only question is who has the courage to deploy it before the next recurrence.
It's chilling. It frames the delay as a moral failure, not a scientific one.
It really does. And, looking at this, it strikes me that this philosophy, this swarm idea, it shouldn't just be for GBM, right?
Oh, absolutely not. If we can figure out how to crack the blood-brain barrier for glioblastoma, we unlock the door for everything else.
Like what?
Brain metastases.
Yeah.
Breast cancer, lung cancer, melanoma, they all spread to the brain and hide behind that same wall. If the swarm works here, it works there. Even for things like DIPG foods, those pediatric brainstem tumors that are currently 100% fatal. This isn't just a treatment for one disease, it's a blueprint for conquering the brain's immune privilege.
It's a blueprint for winning.
It is.
This has been heavy, but honestly, incredibly hopeful. It feels like we are standing on the edge of a shift. Not a small step, but a leap.
I think we are. The pieces of the puzzle are all on the table. We just finally have a picture of how they fit together.
Well, I'm going to be watching this space very closely, but before we wrap up, for everyone listening, I want to leave you with a thought that really builds on this whole concept of evolutionary trapping.
I like where this is going.
If the phantom swarm targets 10 to 20 mutations at once and forces the tumor into a specific evolutionary corner just to survive, could we eventually use AI to predict its exact escape route? Like, could we start preparing a second swarm for a mutation the tumor hasn't even developed yet simply because we forced its hand?
Now that is a fascinating question. Predictive oncology.
Something to mull over. Thanks for diving in with me today.
Anytime.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.